I find myself contradicting myself at times, Matt, which is I don't want to bet on I'll use Creighton, for example. Creighton's a team that shoots about 50% of their possessions end in fumbles, and in three-pointers. So I always get nervous backing a team for a long run. That's silver line. However, when I'm looking at upset-minded teams, I like to back teams like a North Dakota State who shoots 55% of their possessions end in threes, and they shoot them really well, 40%. So like a North Dakota State, if they're able to win the Summit League, which is no guarantee because they're actually struggling a little bit right now, but I think that's an interesting point where I like to look at teams that may have high upside. They get red hot, and they're able to get an upset or two in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, because that's one of the things where I think I'm going to focus a little bit more as we move into March Madness this year, which is, yes, it's sexy to have the championship ticket. I get it and all that. But, it's the same deal with the first, getting over 4.5 points in the first quarter. All the tickets cash the same. Yeah. It's the same money, right?
Yep.
And so if I could focus on some of these teams like you're talking about, and it's not necessarily it's harder to do that in 4 straight games,
exactly.
But 2 games, could they just run super pure for 2 or 3 games? That might be the bets I start to look at.
And and I think what's going to be, we have what looks to be some pretty damn good teams. Auburn, even though they lost this past weekend, looks pretty elite. Duke, we'll see. They get upset this past weekend against Clemson, but it's not a cop-out when I say this. It's going to be so bracket reliant. And I'll give you a team, for example, in Maryland. We've watched them a lot on this show. They have a front court of a senior and a freshman in Reese and Queen that when they have the right matchup, they faced Illinois without their big, and they just dominated them.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominated them. So they're a team, if they get the right bracket, they could make a run. Right. So, and that's the interesting thing. When the bracket comes out, and look, we here at a gambling network want to try to get the best value. You talked about betting the Falcons at 75 to 1, knowing it's probably going to shrink a little bit. But sometimes seeing that bracket come out and seeing the potential path that's out there. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I bet Memphis to make the Final Four at, I think, 50 to 1. Now, they lost their first round game to Florida Atlantic, who did make the Final Four. I saw the path. I just picked the wrong horse. But it was like, if you could see the path of maybe a vulnerable 1 or a vulnerable 4, whatever it may be. So, look, there are going to be some teams. I'll give you an example. I don't know if they're going to make the NCAA tournament, but, Matt, I don't know if you've seen this. Kansas State has now won 6 straight games. If you go back to the start of this 6-game winning streak on January 25th and you tabulate it from them, according to Bart Torvik, they're the number 1 team in the country. Now, they have a lot of terrible losses, and they very well may not make the NCAA tournament. But it's like, who's hot at the right time, and, who's got some pieces that can ultimately get in. By the way, St. John's now on a 14-0 run. So, as anticipated, here it is. The pressure getting to Villanova, and this is what this St. John's team is capable of. They can't do it the whole game, but when they put that pressure on you, teams buckle under against this St. John's defense. And that's what's so intriguing about this St. John's team is, what are they capable of in March if they just put this thing together and play elite defense and just decent offense.
I like the way that you broke that down because those bets that I'm talking about, they actually don't come out until the bracket comes out, so they'll put out.
You can make the Final Four bets now, but
the Elite 8 and Sweet 16 bets don't come out until the bracket comes out, and everyone wants to run and then put in their championship bet or run and put in their Final Four bet. And so now maybe I'd look at this differently, talk to some guys like you and go, I like this team's path. Well, if you like that team's path, they got to get to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 before they make it to the 4 or the championship. And so I think I might try to kind of hit those along the way and see if I can't cash some of those tickets, because I do think that maybe there is in all of this, right? We get wrapped up in, and it's not necessarily us in general, but like a lot of people, you want to have the sexy ticket.
Of course.
I picked this team to win the championship, and they're the last team standing.
Look, I wish I could go take the Matt Youmans has St. John's 80 to 1 ticket. I mean, to have the foresight to have these big tickets, we all want them, and sometimes you have them, and but it's hitting. We'll get into baseball a little bit later. Sometimes hitting singles is all right.
It's like if you're playing, if you were playing. Money lines sometimes, if you're betting money lines in other sports, you're perfectly fine betting a minus 120, minus 125, minus 130 sometimes on money lines. And Yet sometimes when we're betting a future, which again in the NCAA tournament isn't even that far of a future. We're talking about like this could cash in a couple. Yeah, this could cash in a couple of days. That like plus 175 is not cool enough, not sexy. Like plus 210, no way. That's not a futures ticket. It's like, well, I mean, it is. It's just...
a couple of years ago, Gonzaga, the bracket came out, and I looked at the path, and I'm like, no one's beating Gonzaga, and they were like minus $1.20 to win that region. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah,
that is, you got to play that bet. So yeah, sometimes it may not be that sexy. I'll just say this, and I think me and a number of other folks here at the network like it. Sometimes you just got to play the money line. Case in point, last night, Michigan closed 2.5-point favorite against Purdue. They win by 2. You play the money line. Sometimes it's just having that little extra peace of mind is a little bit better.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.